Hello, I'm Christine Haynes. I am an author, pattern maker, and sewing teacher in Los Angeles, California. I'm going to show you how to mark, sew, and press darts properly. I'm going to be using my Sylvie dress pattern to illustrate this, but darts appear in all kinds of projects, garments and beyond. So you'll see them in tote bags, in purses. You'll even see them in home decor projects like slip covers. There's darts in all kinds of things. So we're going to learn how to sew them properly no matter what project you have on hand. So the first thing to gather all your tools, we want to have our water-soluble pencil, and it's really important to make sure it's water-soluble because though we're making all of our markings on the wrong side of the fabric, it's really still, obviously at this point it would be a real bummer if it was an inky pen and it wasn't water-soluble and it soaked through to the front. That would really be super sad. So it's really a good idea to make sure that it's a water-soluble pen or pencil and that it comes off or washes out with ease. I like to use my little ruler to make all of my drawings with. And then it's obviously a good idea to have a pencil sharpener with you as well because we're going to have to sharpen it numerous times. And we want to have our pins. You can see that I have actually marked them in a red Sharpie so that I can see very clearly which lines I need to transfer from my pattern piece to my fabric. And that's essentially what we're doing, is transferring these marks onto my fabric. So I like to put the pin in the apex. Now the apex is the dot where the point of the dart comes together. And then there's the legs, which are the two lines that come off of it towards the edge of the fabric. So I put a pin in the apex. And I like to just then peel the fabric or the pattern piece back, and without releasing the pin from the fabric, I just like to make a little dot with my pencil right where the apex is going to be. I then want to transfer where the legs are onto the fabric. And all I like to do is peel the pattern piece back a little bit and make a little line right where it intersects with the edge of the fabric. So I've got the apex and the legs marked, and now I can take the piece off because I need to now draw those lines. Just like they're drawn here, I need to now draw them onto the fabric itself. I'm going to take my pencil again. I'm going to put it at the apex, butt my ruler up against it, line up this bottom with the leg where it intersects with the edge, and draw that line in place. Just rotate it to draw the other leg and repeat that on the other two pieces, or on the other two darts. Obviously you want to make sure you're using a pencil that you can see really clearly on your fabric. So I'm using this pink water-soluble pencil on my gray fabric. So there's my three lines, just like I had on my fabric or on my pattern piece, now transferred onto my fabric. So from this point, what I need to do now is actually fold these right sides together so that I can stitch along this line. I'm going to just grab the fabric, and right at that apex, I'm folding the fabric and I'm putting a pin perpendicular to the apex. I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to line up the legs. And I'm going to put my pins through the line and confirm that it's also through the line on the underside. I want the head of the pin facing the apex so I can pull them out easily while I'm sewing. And for a dart this long, 2 pins is a really great number, but most darts I try to do a minimum of 3 pins because the first pin you're going to have to basically take out the minute you sit down at your machine, and you want to make sure that the distance is really held in place so that they don't shift and you're really sewing through both lines. But this dart's too short to do 3 pins, so we'll go with 2 pins because you really want that stitch to go through both lines. So when we go to sew the dart, we're going to be sewing from the edge of the fabric towards the apex. That's why I have the pin heads facing the apex so I can pull them out. We're going to use a regular stitch length at 2.5. I'm lining up my needle right on my chalk line, and again I'm going to take that first pin out and sink my needle down in so everything is stabilized. We do want to back stitch at the very beginning So I'm going to go forward a few and back a few to secure it in place. I'm now going to just stitch along that line. And I know because of how I pinned it that it's going through the line on the opposite side as well. I'm going to stop roughly 3/8 of an inch before the apex, pull out my pin, and turn my stitch length from 2.5 down to 1. And I'm going to sew the remainder at that 1.0 stitch length and go right off the edge of the fabric. And I'm not back stitching or knotting it or anything like that. I can cut the thread right up against the edge. And you can see here that I'm sewing right along that line, and then it gets nice and tight because I've reduced the stitch length. And believe it or not, it doesn't pull out, it doesn't unravel or anything like that. To sew the entire Sylvie dress along with me, check out my class on CreativeLive.